Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's April 28th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and a really interesting day. It looked like it was going to start out probably as a trading range day, but notice this bigger channel working down here, and we still don't have a break of this main trend line. You could have seen this a couple of different ways, depending on how you. There's a smaller, shorter term trend line in here, I believe. You can see the lighter two lines coming down here, and you finally get a close outside right in here, and you move to a new low. But I think there's a bigger channel in here too, and now we're correcting back to the other side. And so we may reverse here, we may not. It looks like you might have a trend line working up here now, so I'd follow that line for now and see what happens. This thing has just been extremely weak. If I were looking for a measured leg, I would say there's your first leg, and then this starts a new downtrend. And so we're close to a measured leg, not quite. Somebody else sent me something, and I'm not sure how they measured theirs. Theirs looked a little different than that, though, I do believe. But that's what I would be looking at for a measured leg if we're going to get a measured leg. Wouldn't surprise me, as weak as this thing is, that we don't make another push down here. But it looked like we might end up in a trading range, but you never really get. Remember, you got to have a confirmed trend line in the other direction, and we never get that. You got a little trend working up there, you get the break, move to a new high, another test of it, and then the market's falling again. And even regardless, you're still looking for a retest of this low. Even if you went with this channel, you're not even looking for anything except more down. So it depends on how you looked at it. So that was really interesting. But it did look like we were going to have a failed break lower. You do get a second entry long here, but it's so you might have been tempted to go long there. I think it might have even worked. It broke lower first, and so when it went higher, 58.50, and you got just enough to get out. I don't have that one circled because you really couldn't be looking for longs yet, because that was your first close outside the channel. But if you took that looking at a trading range, it still worked just by the skin of your teeth. So, but I'm not going to mark it. I don't think it was smart, because by the rules, you weren't looking for longs yet. So, but let's start over here at the beginning of the day. There was a channel working up. I don't have that on here. There's a trend line working right up through there. You get your break, a move, attempt to go to a new high, and a chance to go short right there. You actually, if you were, you probably weren't trading then. This was, I don't even know what time that was, but it's way too early. Well, it could have been some of you trading. You probably would have wanted to take that long there, but when you got the second entry long, it's right back up here at the top. And I went back and forth. This one actually should have been green. I went back and forth whether to make that one green or not. That was the first trade I saw, because there's a little congestion there, but you got to understand why that congestion is forming is because there's strong resistance right there, and there's a good chance you may pull back to the EMA, and you do, and you actually just shoot straight through it. You don't really get a setup to go short here. You're going short way too long, so you want to wait and then you'd only get a first entry here, and your second entry doesn't come up here. This one broke higher. It couldn't get below these matching bars, so that's kind of congestion right there. So it's a little bit risky entering short, because it's probably going to snap back. But when this bar formed and broke lower, I would have felt comfortable dropping a limit order there. Even if you may have even just used a stop there, because it is a second entry. It's the first break. This was a clear channel off this, and you brought it up here, and it was, so that's the first break, and you're looking for a retest of those lows. It's a lower high than this double top as well. So I felt okay making that one red, but you might have wanted to use a limit order there. It takes on off, and that's turned out to be a great move, really. and then you tried to go higher once, you tried to go higher again, but you're too close to these lows. You've already had your break and a new low. I think that one would have worked too, but I just think it's too risky. Um, your entry would have been 60. Yeah, it would have worked. You had a tick to spare there actually, but I just think that one's too risky. I didn't like it. And you see it wasn't long before we bounced. And you don't want to be probably taking that first entry because there's a chance you could get another leg down. So I think you were better off to wait, and you never really get another chance to enter until the second entry right here, and it's right off those closes. Then you pull back and you get a second entry counting from here. First entry, pull back, second entry. And so I like that one. And you're still looking for a new high, which is way up here. And this turns out to be similar to this trade. It just takes on off. And then you kind of get in this congestion. You don't want to be entering here. There's a second entry long right here, but look where it's at. We've talked about that a lot lately. You're so far away from the EMA. You've had a possible break here. It could have been that this line is further down here. Um, but I think it's right here, and there's your break, your move to a new high, and then you get your first couple of, and I talk about this a lot. You got to have a confirm. You generally want a confirmed trend line, which means it's off the first two swings, and the confirmation is the third touch. And this was the first confirmation really on this one. You've got your first two swings here, and then you're confirmed. This confirmed it. So this one is probably stronger than this entry. And you get your confirmed touch here. It's a very bearish bar. Just go short right there. Then you get another push up, comes right off the trend line. Boom, another chance to get in this trend. And it's just off to the races. This was a really good entry right here. And then you get two legs up to a new high. And so you really could have entered here. I didn't end up liking this one. Just because there's two matching bars and then a doji and then another doji. I really meant to mark that one in green. If you entered there, you probably wanted to use a limit order when this broke out, and you see it would have come back and filled it because that is a second entry short right there. Notice the new low, first entry pullback, and it is coming off the trend line. So you could have entered there, but then you get two more tries to go higher, so a failed second entry long, and look at that bearish reversal bar, and nothing was able to close outside that trend line, and off to the races it goes again. And another great entry. And then this was again, this one I should have made this green. Forgot to go back and change some of these. I apologize for doing it as we go. But notice this is just a first entry, and you don't have any break of that trend line yet. So that was real aggressive. But the reason I liked it green is it's two swings back, and you can see and it was the first real close outside of this trend line. So you're looking for a new low, excuse me. You're looking for a new low there. And then you get a double top. Again, you don't get a very good signal bar. And by the time this one sets up, it's right here. So if you use this one, you got to use a limit order, and then it pulls back, and then you get a second entry short. And it's really a failed second entry long too, because these are matching highs for the most part. So you can treat that like a failed second entry long. It's a big bearish bar. Just drop your order right there and off it goes. Another great move. Again, you don't know that it's going to do this, but man, it just kept on going. You can see now we're rallying back to the other side of the channel. Okay, I had a slight interruption there, but you can see we're rallying back to the upper side of the channel. Will we get a break this time, or will we turn down? I don't know, but I don't know that we've actually got a close outside this channel. It looks like we might have one there, but I would be real leery of treating that as a close outside, because you may be able to, let's just play with this a minute. This is what I usually do. I'll try to make it fit on both sides, and that fits pretty good. Fits fairly well. Another interruption. Okay, I'm sorry. We got horrible weather here, tornadoes and things like that, and we just got a call that the school's letting out early. So my daughter gets out of school an hour early today. But anyway, I'm not convinced we got a break here yet, so I would be real careful with this. You see it's trying to close inside this bar right here. And I notice okay, maybe we'll get through this chart lesson. I'm sorry. Probably only seemed like a second for you guys, but it's an interruption and it interrupts me and I forget where I'm at. I did notice that I've just about got my charts all set back up. I had to just completely reinstall NinjaTrader on my new computer, and I tried to transfer over my stuff so I could save my history, and it just didn't work. So I had to completely delete it and re-add it, and I've been having to rebuild and make sure I get my charts back like they were, and I didn't have my tick counter down there. But you can see we're finally going to get a close out if that wasn't one right there. So we'll see what happens. I would definitely wait on a better setup here. But we had some really good trades today, and I went talked to one trader today and went back and forth, and he was trying to get long actually right in here, and there's no reason to get long here at all. We're not back down to the lows. We didn't have a break of even the shorter term trend line yet. And he was saying, well, this looked like a trend reversal day. Well, that's right. It does look like a trend reversal day, but the entry was right here, and we already talked about that. It would have worked, but you're not entering over here, and really you can't enter here because you're not down to the double bottom is right here. You can see that. That's where I originally had it, right there. And even if you'd have moved it up, you're still, to those last closes, you're still not there. So you have to get a setup off the bottom of the range if you're going to treat it like a trading range. And his argument was he thought it was a trading range day, so he's trying to get long here. Well, that's wrong, especially when you had an overshoot up here, because you're probably going to get an overshoot down here. You don't know that, but that's something to be thinking about. But you definitely want to wait on a setup off of the actual previous lows or some kind of trap or something maybe. But when you're coming down, you got to follow this trend line and those trend line rules. And this person didn't do that. And then notice what happens when it does get to the place you're expecting to bounce. It shoots right through. That's not a good sign. I mean, it shoots through easily. There's no hesitation there at all. It actually closed on its low and opened on its low and then ticked up and filled that little gap and then continued down. And then, then we did get a reversal. It came back and it tested it once. There's your new high, and it tested it 2 more times, and it's on the way down, but there's your main trend line. So you got to follow the rules. You can't make up rules, and this person did admit that he kind of made up a rule to fit one of his issues, and you can't do that. Trust me, we've got this down to a science. The rules work, and even if you try to adjust something that you don't think is a big deal, you're likely to have problems. So you can't make adjustments to the rules. Don't try to change the rules or make the rules your own rules to fit, because I hear that over and over, and those traders are always the first ones to contact and say, why didn't something work? And I said, well, why did you do that? And they said, well, I made up a rule to keep me from doing something else or something. And you can't do that. You have to follow the rules that we have set in this. They're very straightforward. And if you haven't learned them yet, you need to keep studying your manual, keep studying the videos until you do learn them. And I tell people this over and over. You can't read through that manual one time and then watch a few videos and understand what we do. It's impossible. There's too much. What you have to do with the manual is treat it like a trading, like a study guide. You want to pick it up and read it over and over and over. And because every time you read it, I guarantee you will pick up something else. And every time you watch a video, because there's some things I say, and there's some comments some people made on the website just recently. There's some things I say over and over, and you'd be surprised that people never hear it, or they never, or somebody will say, well, yeah, I heard you say that, but I didn't think it was very important. Well, I wouldn't say it over and over and over if it wasn't important. So there's reasons. Let me see if there's anything else we want to go through here. Just remember, and this is going to the trader that I went back and forth with about whether it was a trading range day or not. Yes, it was a trading range day, but a trading range day can turn into a trend, and a trend day can turn into a trading range day. So you can't get locked in to either one. You got to follow the trend lines and follow the rules. So that's critically important. But make sure that you understand that when you got a trend line working down, you're not looking to counter trend trade until you get a break or of that trend line, which really what that consists of is a clear close outside of that trend line, and then a move to a retest the low. So until when you made this low here, you weren't looking for longs again until you got a break outside this line or a close outside that line and then a move to a new low. But you never got a close. You kept going lower, and you're still going lower, and you still haven't got a close outside that line. So we may go lower yet. Um, and then even if you were trading the shorter term, when you don't have a close outside that line until right here, and you've moved to a new low now, but you got to respect the bigger channel until it's got a close outside of it. Stay with what you're seeing. So anyway, I hope that's clear. There's some other clues here on the way up here. Notice how we couldn't get back up to this high, to this side. Could have been that it's a little lower right across there, but then you got an overshoot, and an overshoot will generally lead to a possible reversal, really. But I think it's right here. You can see that fits really good right there, and we just couldn't get back up there. So that's a good sign that at the very least it may be right along there, and you get a little overshoot here and a little overshoot there. But I really think it's right here. I mean, that tends to fit really well. And we got the break of the trend line and move to a new high, and you couldn't quite get back to that upper side, and it reverses. And notice here on this one, it didn't stop and reverse until it touched the lower side twice. And then you had this little smaller channel working up. You've got a break. We could have had a break right here. This one's a little bit hard to read. I'm guessing that we're just not done to the downside yet. We'll see what happens. We didn't quite get back to the trend line there either, so that leads me to think we may come back up again as well, and maybe get a break, and then we'll see what happens from there. We don't quite have a measured move yet either, so we could run down here and make the measured move and then reverse. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But that's what I saw. There was plenty of good trading early on today, lots of entries. A few of them are a little more aggressive, but plenty of good moves, plenty of runners today. So it just depends on, whether you want to trade the runners. And I do suggest that until you get pretty good at picking the entries and figuring this stuff out, just scalp out in full, because that'll help you learn quicker, and it'll help you from having two losers and only one winner when you don't quite have it down yet. Because that's what happens to a lot of people. They're trying to trade runners, and when they're wrong, they have two losses. But when they're right, only half the time the runner's good, so they only have one winner and then one loser. So just scalp out in full, and that way, if you have two contracts and you lose on two, then when you win on two, and it doesn't make it quite so hard to come back from a loser while you're learning. So hope that makes sense. But that's about it for today. I'm going to wrap it up, and we'll be back to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.